This is a copyrighted audiobook production of Music, Silence, and Noise, authored by Mohammed Saad Riaz. All rights reserved.
Music, Silence, and Noise. Section 1. The Crescendo, the popular kind. Know-it-alls. The greatest enemy of knowledge is not ignorance, it is the illusion of knowledge. Daniel J. Boorstin. The Crescendo students are often highly curious. They like to hold conversations with adults. Because of their emotionally sensitive and deeply thoughtful nature, they can take the discussion to argumentation or introspection. They are usually very good at this. While they want to be treated as adults in conversations, they also demand and deserve to be treated as a child emotionally, with a warm and understanding demeanor. The challenge for you, thus, is to strike a balance. I remember I was asked to leave my classroom in high school when I was arguing with my accounting subject teacher that the method he was teaching could be simplified using a unitary method, and he was insisting on sticking to his approach. My class fellows started to laugh, and the argument began to escalate. I didn't say, "Okay, it was my mistake," because I was sure about it. Hence, I faced the consequences. On another occasion, my adult cousin's sister was stopping other kids from taking my help in placing an order in McDonald's. She believed that I always act smarty pants, and I overcomplicate things. Similarly, when I was a kid, I had heard a lot of comments from adults, for instance saying, "What does he think of himself?" I agree to that sometimes. I think I am a bit bossy, and I can argue every point, large or small. Although, today, I am not as naive as I was in school, I am still the same. Because this is how my brain works. Therefore, I can tell you that smart kids can be know-it-alls who like to get their own way. They can be at times condescending, shun other students' inputs, challenge your authority as a teacher, and even engage in pointless debates. But there's a way to communicate with them without losing your calm. I will tell you how, but before that, let's see why does such behavior develop. Psychological science is of the view that impulsivity, inability to read social cues, and poor listening skills can make a child inconsiderate of other people and their opinion, especially when they are not given the right kind of attention at home. If a child is constantly shut down at home when talking about anything of interest to their parents, it is highly probable that they will take it out in a school environment by making sure they are heard in the classroom. Another reason could be that they might be so frequently gratified and listened to at home by their parents that the child might think they are entitled to always being right. This creates a genuine sense of grandiosity and superiority. Hence, the know-it-all personalities occur due to either massive insecurity or being spoilt too much. Sometimes, when smart kids actually do know quite a bit about whatever you are teaching and want to give in their maximum input, they unintentionally disturb the classroom. For all of these reasons, it should be understood that it is not the student's fault for being the way that they are, and you as a teacher must be as empathetic as possible to their situations to help them become better, so that they learn themselves, and let others learn from you as well. What are you supposed to do when your class is in shambles? How do you deal with a situation where the know-it-all students prevent you from teaching and others from learning? It is common for smart kids to argue every point, large or small, with their teachers. So, how do you handle these conflicts to be an effective teacher? If all of your students gradually start showing distrust in your credibility as a teacher and not pay attention to your lectures, what do? Teachers can get overwhelmed in deciding which problem they should attend to first. They resort to calming everyone down early, and that is the best thing to do. Now, let's rule out some of the most common mistakes of classroom management first. Never ignore the problem by merely smiling and bearing with it. Ignoring the students and the issues that they are causing for you will not help you out in the long run. It will instead create a chasm between you and your students, deteriorating your long-term relationship. Do not challenge them. If you feel threatened by a student, know that challenging them will serve no one. Though, the child needs to stop thinking that they are always right. And so do you. A teacher is always right is also not the proper way to go about it. It is vital to lead by example and make your student realize that no one knows everything and that it is okay to be wrong as long as you are willing to learn what is right. Do not shout or yell, no matter how panicked you feel, and do not know what it is that you must do. No matter how stressed you feel due to the disruptive attitude in the classroom, never show overt aggression. That is just a short-term solution, and it may cause any commotion to die down in your classroom. It will not help you in your upcoming lectures because you will not have addressed the problem. Do not ridicule them by acting in an insulting or humiliating way. The students will surely damage their self-esteem, self-confidence, and it might also create a massive rift between you and them. This will be a significant hindrance in trying to help students with problems thereafter. When your student is confused or disappointed about something, they will react negatively. They may need to be comforted, and so mocking them will only make things worse. Keep in mind the fact that even though your students may be know-it-alls, they are still children. Despite the way they may talk, act, and behave be like adults, they deserve the care that every other child needs. Intentionally or otherwise, teachers sometimes respond to the students in a harsh tone, as though they may be talking to adults. Even though the student might demand to be treated like an adult, you must make a point to never react impulsively. Because if you do, it will cause your student to become more reactive and disruptive in the class. If an adult-like or disrespectful attitude is directed towards the students, then out of spite, they will find ways to get their way, and maybe even embarrass you. For example, if you slip up a mispronunciation during your lecture, they will make it a point to loudly correct it as quickly as possible in order to make you, as well as the rest of your class, feel like they know more than you. This can become quite a challenging situation to be in, and hence it is highly important to deal with such students with care, where they respect you, your opinion, your teaching method, and the rest of the class as well. As a teacher, it is important to teach your students that they must be respectful towards the feelings, thoughts, opinions, and answers of all the others present in the classroom. You must learn to wear different hats in order to cater to and understand all sorts of children in your class. Hence, you should be able to find and develop different ways of relating to the constantly changing states of their minds, from know-it-alls to childish. It is vital to understand your students' feelings and why they are behaving in a certain way. Identifying the problem is your most useful starting point. As mentioned before, your student can be a know-it-all for multiple reasons, and you must figure out whether the cause is insecurity, superiority complex, or simply that they genuinely know about whatever you may be teaching. If you can understand where they are coming from, then you are accepting their feelings, which is fundamental to any real communication. You can only truly identify the problem if you listen to and understand what they are telling you. By acknowledging your students' feelings and accepting that they are smart, you are helping them to develop a sense of self. Your students are looking for acknowledgement and reassurance, and you must use different teaching aids where they can direct all their knowledge rather than taking it out in class. However, you must ensure that your acknowledgement is not enabling the know-it-all. This can only be done if you talk to them at a personal level by being friendly. In this way, they will feel comfortable enough to come to you and start respecting you and your methods of teaching. You must also disarm them. This means that you should never allow your students to be in control and make you angry. Such children will always try to bend the rules, which is not an inappropriate thing to do. All you need to do is to make sure that you do not challenge them. because it will encourage them to find more ingenious ways to misbehave with you. Teach them the difference between right and wrong, and how important it is to respect authority, or politely present your difference of opinion. With this, they will be able to adjust to the demands of their environment, becoming more flexible, innovative, and emphatic. Once you have found ways to make sure they respect you, you must also teach them to respect the class environment and their peers. Ensure that they do not null the opinions and inputs of other students. Mutual respect is possible only if you have excellent communication with your class. And for that, you have to be honest. Communication is based on trust, and trust is based on honesty. Understand that children are much more perceptive than they seem, and they are susceptible to the actions and reactions of their caregivers. They will quickly know when you are dishonest with them. No matter what, your students will sense your mood and look for clues around them to understand why. If you try to hide something from your student or exaggerate your opinion of the circumstances, they will know that something is not right. Dishonesty breeds mistrust and undermines positive communication between you and your students. However, being honest does not mean that you need to be 100% candid. Child-appropriate explanations are essential because, as mentioned before, they are not adults and hence should not be treated as such. Always try your best to ensure that your student can understand what new information you are conveying. If they point out a mistake or add more information, do not shut them down, but rather accept that you didn't know something and that you will learn more about it. Never threaten the student for stating what could be wrong. Threats are a tool for disciplining that teachers have used throughout the ages, and this has led to a lot of communication gaps between them and their students. To make sure that your know-it-all student respects those around him, you should also try to bridge the gap between them. If you notice that your student is regularly shutting down the input of another student's, you can ask them both to stay after class and say, "I can see that you have some problems with your classmate. As your teacher and caregiver, it is my job to figure out what is going on between you and try to help you both resolve it. So please talk to me." All in all, it is understandable that dealing with a know-it-all student is challenging. But it is your duty as a teacher to cater to all of them and leave no one behind.
If you appreciate the ideas presented in this audiobook, please share it with your friends and family. Also, please subscribe to the channel and leave a comment. This will help the author to monetize this production. Thank you for your token of appreciation.